here. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us about your candidacy and what's going on, what your stances are with cannabis in the county.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think as Nathan outlined, this is such a pivotal seat for the future of our region. It is the last bastion of Republican control, and you can really see a difference in mindset in terms of the folks who are on the board right now and who've been making decisions in San Diego for the last 27 years, and what I think we need for the future of San Diego. And it's across the board on a whole range of issues, everything from affordable housing to environment to sprawl to traffic. But one of the issues is definitely on cannabis. I very strongly believe that we need to support a cannabis economy in San Diego that creates a good tax base for the county, that creates good opportunities for growers, for distributors, for producers. I really look at cannabis as especially in this time where there's so much around of our economy and COVID-19 collapsing and a lot of challenges that we're facing economically. Cannabis, I think, is one of those places that really could be a bright spot for small businesses, for the cannabis industry, for the community as a whole. And the county should be in the forefront of creating a level playing field and making that an opportunity that really works. And partly because I think it's the right thing to do, to be honest. You look around at drug policies in this country, and just, I'm going to say something a little controversial, but you can kind of go back to the origin of a ban on cannabis, and that really came out of racism, and it was about giving police a tool to crack down on the African American community, and the entire criminalization of cannabis can be traced to like a history of slavery and a history of racism in our country. And I'm glad that California is on the cutting edge of fighting back against that. We passed the laws, and now we need to implement them at the county level. So not everything always comes back to the movements of the day, but certainly there's a strong link between the ban on cannabis and racism in America. So it's it'll be a real honor to be able to put in place a framework for the cannabis industry to be safe, to be legal, to allow opportunities for growth, to allow opportunities to expand the tax base. So I don't really have much more to say than that. I think just a little background for folks to know about me. So by training, I'm an economist. My PhD is in political economy, and I'm also an attorney by training as well, with a background in environmental law. But I spent much of my life as an organizer and working as a community organizer, working with United Farm Workers, working with the American Civil Liberties Union. It was actually sort of one of the first things I did politically to get involved that really opened my eyes to the change that we can make as individuals, was suing the city of San Diego for a youth curfew ordinance that I thought was unconstitutional. It gave the police too much power to crack down on folks who are just minding their own business, getting a burrito at 10 o'clock at night. And we won in the Ninth Circuit. And so that was a pretty empowering experience for a kid to bring a lawsuit, beat the city, and know that when we stand up and fight for our rights, that we can actually win. So I'm excited to do the work now, to fight for our rights here in San Diego County. And I can't do it alone, I will say that. This is going to be a huge seat. It's a tough seat. We're going to need to really raise the resources to communicate with voters. So I'm going to need your help. I'm going to need your support, but it'd be great to be your partner on the Board of Supervisors.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think just so everybody can understand what we're looking at with a dynamic between you and Supervisor Gaspar, is I think the first act she did when she got elected and was on the board in 2017 was to ban cannabis in the unincorporated areas. So, it goes without saying that we need you tremendously on there. A couple of things I did want to just highlight from just my discussion with Nathan was having, I guess, an ideal ordinance generated from the county that could then be passed on to lower jurisdictions. So I know that we have some good folks running in District 1 that are all pro-cannabis too. So is that something that you see the county as taking on?
I love it. I love that idea. I mean, honestly, I hadn't thought of it. I think it's a great idea. Um, this is actually something I have a background in, is sort of the role that model ordinances and model laws can play. When I was working with the World Bank, you do a lot of work of sort of what are the best practices, putting in place best practice frameworks that jurisdictions can sort of like cut and paste and copy. And then that way you have standardization across the board. It makes it just so much easier for people to operate in multiple jurisdictions. And also that means that we can really put the time in to get it right. If we do one, we do it thoughtfully, we think it through, we get the right kind of model framework in place. I think that's a great plan.
Yeah, I think it's good. And I know a lot of other elected officials in those jurisdictions are looking for some guidance. They point to the state level, but they give you kind of just, standards and minimum levels. But if we had a more regional approach, I think we could do some great things. For example, the county has some tremendous agricultural land. It would be prime for cultivation, and I know a lot of those farmers, they don't want to switch primarily or like all the way to cannabis cultivation. They would just like to use it to subsidize some of their other operations. So I think there's just a ton of untapped potential in those areas. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Border Patrol checkpoints on the 5 and the 8. Well, I know you're familiar with those ones, but actually just the other day, somebody got stopped and all of their product got confiscated coming from East County. So I think that also speaks to the importance of having kind of our own ecosystem of cannabis in the area, regarding just, we can have cultivation in the county, and then we have plenty of other population centers to sell the product here locally, which, generates economic development in the area. So, okay, well, we got just a couple more minutes. I think we'll jump to questions here. If anybody has any questions for Terra, please put them in the chat. Actually, we got one here on the process, and I think this speaks to also, the movement in the time as well as social equity. It is incredibly expensive to open up any of these operations. I think if we were to have some equity in the process, we would need some type of assistance coming from the county to help people start up those businesses. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you think that that's something that might be able to look into at the county level to just kind of level the playing field for folks?
I would love to learn more what you guys are thinking, because I think that's, to me, one of the reasons I'm running for the seat at all, is that we need the county taking a lot more leadership and doing the sort of innovative work to jumpstart the things that should be happening in our county that aren't. You can't just wait for things to pop up. Sometimes you actually need the county to sort of seed the work. So I would love to know more what you're thinking and how we could make it happen.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not something that can be quickly done. I think we really need to put a lot of resources and effort into researching that. A couple other questions that just came up regarding licensing frameworks and caps and limitations. One of the biggest issues that we're having throughout the state is the lack of retail. So do you have, I guess, any ideas or thoughts on how many licenses of each type that you would be willing to accept? Or, I mean, what kind of industry is pushing for is, hey, let's just let the free market decide, right? If there's people buying this and we want to bring people from the illicit market to the legal one, we should let them do that. Do you have any thoughts on, I guess, the amount of licenses that should be available?
I don't know. I would want to take a look at it. I think my instinct is that when you limit licenses, then you end up with sort of, as an economist would call it, is like a monopoly by like early entrants, and it's not a very level playing field, and it also hurts consumers in the end. So my instinct as an economist is that doesn't really make sense. It's not actually good for consumers, but I actually frankly don't know enough about why people would possibly want to limit them. I feel like I would at least want to know what their arguments are, but it doesn't seem like, my instinct is that it doesn't really make sense to do that. Yeah.
I'd also argue that they're pretty arbitrary. So yeah, we need more, a lot less, but that's my opinion. Another one is also kind of on the theme of social equity and social justice here. We still have a ton of folks that are locked up for cannabis convictions in the county level. Mara Elliott has done some work.
How do we get them out?
A lot of it's going to have to be efforts on the county level with Summer Steffen. So, you know, I don't know if we've had the efforts there at the county level to really push her and to get her to do that, but we haven't had the transparency from our office about how to do that. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I did just want to highlight that as an issue because, you know, once again, there's plenty of people that are in this business legally. Meanwhile, people are still locked up for these cannabis convictions.
Yeah,
So,
no, I mean, I was asking that question sort of rhetorically, but also it's a real, to me, that's something I've been thinking a lot about. You know, we spend so much money in our county jails, keeping folks locked up. Wouldn't that money be better spent in investing in our communities, right? Like, I just, it doesn't make any sense to me that you want to have folks locked up for something that's not even illegal anymore.
Yeah.
It does. It's just, it actually feels immoral, right? Like if you got locked up for something and it's not even wrong anymore or not even illegal, you know, why if you were the one who broke the law, you know, 1 year and then the next year it's not illegal, but now you're in jail for 10 years. It just doesn't seem right at all. So I think there's like multiple streams here. One is just a sort of an ethical and a moral issue that just is very unjust. But it's also, the impacts in our communities can be really profound. You know, the long-term impacts of incarceration are really, really negative, you know, not only for the person incarcerated, but for the people that they leave behind, the kids that they leave behind, that they can't support, the families that they're not able to be a part of. So the impacts on communities of incarceration is really, really negative. And I think, you know, of course, you have to have a robust law enforcement system for folks who break the law. But if you've not really done anything wrong, you know, to waste our county resources, locking them up, I think it's a pretty wrong-headed approach, especially because we could be better investing those resources in real public safety and really really serving our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that's the time we have. I know you have to jump to another event here soon. So I guess any last thoughts, anything else you want to say before we go?
I just would say I really do need your help. You know, I think it's going to be a tough battle. Anyone who can write a check, if you can write a check, if you can't, if you can volunteer. But we're going to need all hands on deck to win this race. So we're phone banking, we're doing door hangers, we're hosting meet and greets. You know, whatever you can do would make a big difference.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Terra, for joining us. For everybody, her information is in the chat. It's all in the chat there. So, you know, please contribute to Terra here. I can't express how much we need her. And as also Nathan put in the video before, you know, we have to have her on the county board of supervisors if we're going to make any changes. And we have a lot of opportunity to make those changes if we elect Terra. So please visit her website. It's terra-lawson-remer.org. Terra, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to see you.
Okay, thanks.